Hello, hello. Welcome to the Premier League Transfer Roundup for January 2022. Welcome along, everyone. If you want to know about all the transfers, check out this channel because I've covered all of these transfers in the Premier League Transfer Roundup video. So watch that one. But here we're going to do a little summary of every single club in the Premier League. So stick with me. I'm going to tell you all about it. We're going to start with Arsenal. Now, Arsenal are our first club, and we're going to give them a rating out of 10. So help me out if you agree with my rating or you disagree with my rating. So we're going to start with Arsenal. This is a bit of a controversial one. If you ask Arsenal fans, they would say they've had a disastrous window. They sold loads of players, quite a few fringe players, quite a few players out on loan. But the one, and I think all of you know it, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang from Arsenal to Barcelona on a free transfer is the biggest piece of business that Arsenal did all window. Now, surprisingly enough, they didn't bring in a replacement for Aubameyang, which surprised me, and I'm sure surprised many of you out there, especially you Arsenal fans. So although Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang is off the books, Arsenal don't have to pay his wages anymore. I think that is a huge positive for Arsenal to get rid of Aubameyang. What's the point of him earning all this money if he's sitting at home doing nothing? So I do think that is a very good piece of business from Arsenal. And if I was to give them a rating, I'd probably be giving them a 5. I'd be in the middle. I think they should have done some business a little bit more in the striking department, in the creativity department. That I feel really could have given their chances of top 4 real hope. At this time, I think it will be a bit of a stretch. I don't think they'll make the top 4. That's my opinion on that one. That's 5 out of 10 for Arsenal's transfer business. Aston Villa. Now, I was impressed with Aston Villa and their transfer business. They brought in Felipe Coutinho, Luca Dean, Callum Chambers from Arsenal. It's a really smart business. Quite a few players went out on loan, including Matt Targett to Newcastle for the rest of the season. I say Felipe Coutinho is going to be a huge hit with the Aston Villa fans, and I certainly see him making a huge impact on the remainder of their season. So, in my opinion, they've done some very good business. I give them an 8 out of 10, Aston Villa, and a permanent signing of Luca Dean. Again, I think is really good business. And to get a player of that caliber, I think says a lot about where Aston Villa are going. They were able to get away from to really capture the signature of Luca Dean. With Chelsea, with Newcastle, with big clubs after him, and Luca Dean chose Aston Villa. So I think it says a lot about Aston Villa's ambitions and their project going forward to really start off that competition. So I'd have to give them quite a high number. I give them 7 out of 10, maybe 7, 8. Maybe an 8. I think they did really good business this window. Plenty of players, like I said, out on loan for Aston Villa in a very comfortable position in the Premier League at this time. Brentford is where we go to next. A team that they find themselves in 14th position, currently 8 points ahead of the relegation places, above the relegation place, which I think is beyond Brentford's expectations at the start of the season. They brought in Christian Eriksen, which of course is just a marvelous story when you consider his cardiac arrest last summer in the Euros was absolutely devastating when that happened, of course, for their player. And nobody knew back then if he'd ever play football again. And for him to sign for a Premier League club is absolutely astonishing. And that is fantastic news, not just for Brentford fans, but I think for football fans to see Christian Eriksen back on the pitch, I can't wait to see him playing again. So for that piece of business from Brentford, they did have another signing on loan, and then plenty of players went out on loan from Brentford. I'd be giving them a solid 7 out of 10. Christian Eriksen, their major signing, and I think a very, very worthy player to fit into their midfield. So that's Brentford. Let's move to Brighton. Brighton and Hove Albion did plenty. There's quite a few unknown players here. They made some business. Well, they did some business with quite a few unknown clubs. So I think these are more players for the future, not players necessarily for now. Their biggest departure, of course, being Dan Burn for Newcastle United, being sold to Newcastle United for £12.5 million. Good deal, I think, for both clubs, especially with Dan Burn being 29 years of age. So lots of business done by Brighton. I have to give them a solid 6 for them, although they're investing for the future, as I can see here. I do think that perhaps a few more experienced players might have given them hope of pushing in to potentially the European places, but I think they might just come up short on that one. Burnley, not much activity at Burnley. 1 signing in, 2 signings out. Signing out Chris Wood to Newcastle United to their relegation rivals. Nothing Burnley could have done about it. That release clause was in Wood's contract for 25 million. So probably a good deal in the end for both clubs. Considering Newcastle's wealth, 25 million is not necessarily an extortionate amount of money. But if you look at where Newcastle are in the league and Burnley are in the league, you might say that will be a decent bit of business for Newcastle. Anyway, they sold Chris Wood for 25 million and brought in Wout Weghorst from Wolfsburg, a player that is proven in the Bundesliga. Will he prove to be a good signing for Burnley? From the stats, I think he could be a hit with the Burnley fans. And that's something I think we need to keep an eye on, is how much can these players impact for the rest of the season for their clubs. And I think that is going to be really intriguing, especially the clubs at the wrong end of the table. So there's another one here that I very much want to point out. Just before that, before I point it out, because we'll move on to Chelsea next, I'll probably give Burnley a 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 for Burnley. I think if they did a little bit more business and had a bit more quality up front, I think they could get out of trouble. However, I don't feel that they're going to do that, even though I think Weghorst is an excellent signing for them. Let's then move, like I said, to Chelsea, and a club that, as you know, has a huge amount of wealth. And I think that they're certainly in contention, in a strong position to finish in the Champions League places. They didn't feel that they needed to bring anyone in or send anyone out. So there were some loans, and there were a couple of signings, more for the future for Chelsea, not for now. And this will be the squad that they have for the remainder of the season. So yeah, just have to keep an eye on Chelsea. I don't think they'll be too far away from second position, but I don't see them being a contender for the title now. So Chelsea's dealings, well, Chelsea have already got a fantastic squad as it is in terms of transfer business. They didn't really need much improving. I said a couple of players went out on loan, 1 for an undisclosed fee. I'd be looking probably around a 5, right in the, I think it's an average window for Chelsea. Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace are an established Premier League club, and they currently sit in 13th position. Patrick Vieira has done wonders since arriving in the summer. And I think he's really taken Crystal Palace to the next level and brought in some wonderful players. Only the one incoming, Luke Plunge from Derby County on deadline day, although he did go back out on loan from Crystal Palace back to Derby County for the remainder of the season. See Luke Plunge as being a very decent player from what I've seen of him. And who knows if he'll keep Derby County out of trouble. Derby County have done an incredible job. Wayne Rooney has done an amazing job with them up to this point, or even for them to be in contention of potentially getting out of trouble is remarkable. But going back to Luke Plunge, I think he's a good addition to Crystal Palace's squad, and I reckon he'll be in the first team picture next season. A couple of outgoings for them, none really of note. I'd say, again, given Crystal Palace as league position and the great quality they have in their side of Zaha, with Gallagher, with Olise, there are some top players at Crystal Palace these days. Some decent business from them. So I'll probably be giving them, again, probably a 5, some average business for them. And of course, looking ahead to the future. Everton, a club in turmoil, just recently signed or hired Frank Lampard, which I think is an interesting move from the Everton board. I think it's gone down with mixed reviews from the Everton fans. The jury's still out, in my opinion, but I know others feel that Frank Lampard could be the manager to take them forward. They made some really interesting signings during January. The one that stands out the most to me here is Donny van der Beek. I think if he gets playing time, I think you'll see Donny van der Beek really shine. If he's played in the right position, if he has enough minutes, I think this player really has a lot to show, a lot to prove, not just to Everton fans, but to Manchester United fans. What have Man United been doing with Donny van der Beek for the past year and a half? Who knows? It really has been a mystery to me, and I'm sure mystery to millions of you out there. What has happened to Donny van der Beek at Manchester United? But he's now an Everton player for the remainder of the season, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. Dele Alli is another addition to their squad, a player whose career has stalled, but if Frank Lampard puts him in the right position, gives him confidence, gives him belief, I can see Dele Alli really performing well for Everton. And then a couple of unknown players. Mikalenko, not a player suited necessarily to the Premier League in some people's eyes. Of course, signed from Dynamo Kiev for a hefty sum of money. He might need some time to settle in. Nathan Patterson from Rangers for 12 million, which will also be a signing to look out for. Of course, Luca Dini left for 23 million to Aston Villa. Some decent business for Everton, and I'd be giving them a solid 8 out of 10. Great business from Everton. Can they get out of trouble? That's the next question, because they're not in a great position at this time, and they really need to get points on the board. Leeds United is where we're going to head to next. Very little business from Leeds United. They had one player come back from a loan, and then that player went back out on loan. But otherwise, no business for Leeds United. And I wonder if that will come back to bite them, considering their Premier League position. Being in 15th, they are currently 7 points clear of the relegation zone. At this time, they are relatively safe. You can probably tell that. Yeah, of course, they're relatively safe. 7 points is a lot of points. But there's still many matches to be played. For some teams, 17, 18, or even 19 matches left to play. So they are not out of the woods yet. So I do wonder if doing little business in the January transfer window is going to come back to bite Leeds. However, and this is a big however, they did keep Rafinha and they did keep Calvin Phillips. Huge leads and could definitely secure their Premier League survival if these two players play at the top of their game. So not much business from Leeds. I was a little bit surprised by that. So I'd be giving them a 3 out of 10 as I felt a little bit more could have been done during the transfer window. So yeah, I'd give them a 3 out of 10 for their transfer business. Leicester City in the top half of the table, just about 10th position, fairly safe. Of course, they are 11 points clear of the relegation zone, so quite congested in there. I think Leicester City are a club, of course, won't be dragged into any relegation trouble. I don't see them moving too much. If anything, they might move up a few places, although Brendan Rodgers is under increasing pressure, especially after their defeat to Nottingham Forest the other day. So yeah, they brought in one player. They brought in Amani Richards from Arsenal, a youth player, not a player known to myself, and I'm sure to many of you watching. Quite a few outgoings, a lot of fringe players, young players on loan, and a couple of permanent deals. Leicester have quite an established squad, sitting in 10th position, are fairly stable. I did think that they could have brought in a couple of players just to bolster their attacking flair up front. Of course, Jamie Vardy out injured, Patson Daka, and they also have they of course have James Maddison in the side, Jose Perez. But I think adding another striker to that really could have given Leicester City the chance to really push for Europe. I think that will be a bit difficult for them to reach. So Leicester City, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 for their transfer business. Liverpool up next, signed Luis Diaz for 33.3 million, a huge deal that was proposed in the summer. That was planned to be in the summer, but it ended up being in January due to Tottenham Hotspur's very strong interest in the player. So they brought him in. I think he'll add a lot on the wings. He's a very skillful player, one of the best players in the Portuguese league. So I think Tottenham have definitely missed out here on a truly great player, potentially great player in the Premier League. Liverpool, of course, are a club steeped in history, so you can understand why Luis Diaz chose them. Liverpool won the league a few years ago, won the Champions League. They're definitely a team on the rise, and they don't seem like falling anytime soon. So it made perfect sense for Luis Diaz to move to Liverpool, and I think he'll absolutely shine at the club. Might take him some time to adapt. Quality players don't normally need that much time. So that was their only incoming. A few outgoings: Nat Phillips to Bournemouth on loan and Nico Williams out on loan. So some decent business for Liverpool here. I'll probably give them a 6 out of 10 to bring in Luis Diaz in January. Might give them a little bit of a final stage surge towards the Premier League title, although I don't see it. I'm sure many of you out there don't see it. I think it is Manchester City's to lose. And of course, move on to Manchester City now, as they brought in only one player as well, Julian Alvarez from River Plate, a player that is fairly unknown if you've just followed European leagues. And this is a player that is considered more of a second striker, is on loan for River Plate until the end of the season. And then Manchester City will decide what to do with him then, if he's going to go out on loan again or he is going to be a first-team regular. Certainly a player for the future, a player with huge potential. And they also, of course, sold Ferran Torres to Barcelona for 46 million, a great deal, I believe, there for both clubs. So that's something that my dog did not approve of. But it's not up to him. It's up to you to decide if you think it was good business for Manchester City to sell Ferran Torres to Barcelona. I think it's, like I said, a good deal for both sides. And then there were some outgoing loans. And there were, I think, there's a couple of frees there as well. So Manchester City, some good business during the transfer window. Give them a 7 out of 10 for their transfer dealings. Manchester United is where we'll go to next. No incomings at all for Manchester United. This was a shock to me, and I'm sure some Manchester United fans out there, maybe not a shock, maybe a frustration with the ownership currently, and the infuriation amongst Manchester United fans is evident, and it was compounded with their loss to Middlesbrough on Friday night, which of course was devastating for their season. But no incomings, no investment at all, when clearly investment is needed in that squad, if you ask me. They are, however, in 4th position to get back in, or to get to the Champions League next season. They let Donny van de Beek out on loan, and Axel Tuanzebe out on loan to Napoli. And then they also let out a couple of other fringe players too. If I had to rate Manchester United's transfer dealings, I'd have to give it a 3. I'm not particularly impressed with what they did on the incoming side. They didn't make any. But I think the outgoing of Donny van de Beek and Axel Tuanzebe, I forgot about Anthony Martial. I think it's good business to let these players go, let these players play football, and then reassess their situation in the summer. But no incomings for me has to be a 3 out of 10 for Manchester United. Newcastle United. Lots of speculation in January about what players will they sign. All the players they were linked with, over 100 names, and they ended up buying quite a few. They bought 5 players in total: Kieran Trippier, Chris Wood, Bruno Guimaraes, Matt Targett, and Dan Burn. Some Premier League experience, which I believe is what they need to stay in the league. Players like Bruno Guimaraes is going to be an interesting one. How is he going to adapt to the Premier League? He needs to hit the ground running. There is no time to waste for Newcastle United. They find themselves in a position where they cannot underperform any longer. So keep an eye on players like Guimaraes and Kieran Trippier, of course, a seasoned professional, had a successful stint at Atletico Madrid. I think is a decent signing and could be a future Newcastle United captain. A couple of outgoings: Freddie Woodman to Bournemouth on loan, and most notably Jeff Hendrick out to QPR on loan for the rest of the season. Newcastle's transfer business, I'll be giving them an 8. I think I could even give them a 9 if Bruno Guimaraes does hit it off. But 8 is the number I give them. They've given themselves a good chance of staying in the Premier League. Norwich City, no incomings for Norwich City. Very disappointing on that front. They might feel they already have enough to stay up. They are currently sitting in 18th position, and they certainly need to get clear of the relegation zone as soon as possible. But results will be hard to come by. No incomings, like I said, for them. Their most noticeable outgoing was Todd Cantwell to Bournemouth on loan, which is a bit of a surprise to me. I think Todd Cantwell is a very good player on his day, but he was sent out to Bournemouth on loan for the remainder of the season. And I'd say that Norwich City haven't done enough to necessarily stay in the league with the outgoings that they had and the lack of incomings. So if you were asking me, I don't know if I can see them staying up. But they do have good players in their ranks, and they have a good manager as well. So that's certainly one to look out for. If I was give Norwich City a number, I'd be giving them also a 3 out of 10. I felt they could have maybe done a little bit more business. I know that January is a difficult month, but I really think Norwich should have been a bit more proactive in who they bought during January if they're going to stay in the Premier League. Of course, it's a huge amount of money to stay in the Premier League, and so many clubs, Watford, Newcastle, Burnley, Norwich, all in the mix to go down, and they would not want to lose that money that the Premier League give them at the end of the season. So, and of course, Premier League status. Southampton, very stable in the Premier League at this point as I speak. Willy Caballero is the only incoming goalkeeper of vast experience, played for Manchester City. And I think he's a good backup, if that is for Fraser Forster or that is for Alex McCarthy. So I can see good piece of business there from Southampton. And their outgoings, nothing really of note to report. Southampton, another team with a very established squad, established manager, and I think with Willy Caballero being a good piece of business for them, be giving them a 6 out of 10 for Southampton, potentially push up to the European places at the end of the season, but they are currently sitting in 12th position. Tottenham Hotspur, right. A lot of talk about Tottenham Hotspur during the January transfer window. Antonio Conte wanted players in. He got a couple of players in, 2 from Juventus, 1 on a permanent deal. Rodrigo Bentancur from Juventus and Dejan Kulusevski also from Juventus on loan until the end of the season. Both players out of favour at Juventus. 2 players that I think are rated quite highly by some fans out there. I think if these 2 players start, I think they will find themselves performing to their ability, to their highest level. And I think that's certainly one to keep an eye on. A couple of outgoings, Ndombele, Brian Gill, and Itchy Nose, as you can see. Tango Ndombele, Brian Gill, and Giovanni Lo Celso all out on loan, which Antonio Conte, funnily enough, did actually question, which I thought was really interesting, that he was not too happy that some players were let go. Of course, they will be coming back to Tottenham at the end of the season, but maybe Antonio Conte wanted maybe to have a further look at them, or he just simply wanted a bigger squad. If I was going to give Tottenham, I do think that Tottenham probably could have got rid of a few more players in terms of centre-backs. I think that's where they're at their weakest. However, I don't know if, again, the market is difficult in January, so you have to understand that it's not easy to bring in players then. So, yeah, if I was going to give a rating, probably looking at 5 out of 10. Decent window for Tottenham. Do think that the lack of signings for a centre-back might come back to haunt them. Right, 3 clubs left. Watford in deep relegation trouble, just like Newcastle, Burnley, and, of course, Norwich City. They brought in 4 permanent signings, 4 fairly unknown players. 1 from the French League, 1 from the Dutch League, from the Italian League, no one from the French League. So they could be decent, but they are all unproven in the Premier League. So the jury is out on these players. And I certainly have my reservation. A couple of outgoings on loan for Watford, but nothing necessarily of note. I think that it could be some potential here. I think Roy Hodgson's appointment could give Watford the edge for the final stages of this season. But of course, only time will tell. How is he going to integrate these players, these new unknown players, into the squad and get them firing on all cylinders straight away. Because of these signings, I think they've given themselves a decent chance. I'd be giving them a 7 out of 10 for Watford. West Ham United, no incomings at all. I know some West Ham fans are very unhappy that there were no incomings during the window. However, maybe they have bigger plans in the summer to bring in players. You can understand that West Ham are in a very good position in the league. I think Europa League is definitely a target for them. You could say top 4, but I think realistically, that will be a bit of a tall order for them. A couple of outgoings, all out on loan. As I feel West Ham could have maybe done a little bit of business in January, I'd be giving them a 3 out of 10 for West Ham United. And finally, Wolverhampton Wanderers, or how they are known by many, Wolves. They did some business, some interesting business actually. A couple of players in from unknown clubs. One from the Korean League. One from Grasshopper, and they made Wang Hee-chan a permanent signing from RB Leipzig. That's probably their best piece of business, in my opinion. He's had a good start to his Premier League career. Has already scored quite a few goals, and there, of course, were quite a few outgoings. The most notable one to speak of is, of course, Adama Traore to Barcelona on loan until the end of the season. That's an interesting one to look out for. Will Adama Traore stay with Barcelona past his loan? Do Barcelona have enough money to afford Adama Traore on a permanent deal? Of course, time will tell. So some decent business there for Wolves. I'll be giving them a 6 out of 10. No 10s, no 1s, no 2s, nothing like that. But if I was going to say to you who I feel is the best signing of the January transfer window, if you've watched the video with every single player that's moved in and out of Premier League clubs in January, you'll know that my pick is Bruno Guimaraes. From what I've seen with him in Lyon, if he can hit anything near that form for Newcastle United, I reckon they'll be all right. I reckon they'll be safe. But I do think that he is a player that can make a huge difference for them and is most definitely their future in or out of the Premier League. In Newcastle fans' case, to be in the Premier League. I am, of course, a Newcastle fan. So that's not why I chose Bruno Guimaraes, but I do believe that he is a player that if he hits form, he'll be turning up. Well, he'll be turning up good results for the Magpies. That is all of the players of note analysed for every single club in the Premier League from January 2022. I'll be seeing you hopefully in the next transfer roundup, which will be the summer transfer roundup in the Premier League. Don't forget La Liga and Serie A. This is where you get all of that. You get everything you need to know about all the big clubs in all the best leagues. So what are you waiting for? Like it, subscribe to it, give it a comment, do the good stuff. I'll see you very soon for that transfer roundup, where there will be a season review for each club at the end of the season. So keep an eye out for that one. And of course, after every match day, there will be a roundup of every single European match in Serie A, in La Liga, and of course, in one of the best leagues, if not the best league in the world, the Premier League. I'll see you on the next video that I see you on. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.